So this spice mixture comes very close to the packaged taco seasoning mixes that you can buy at the store. 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1.5 tablespoons of cumin, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 150 mils of water, or about 2/3 of a cup, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of dried oregano, and 1.5 teaspoons of cornstarch. Can be used of any ground meat, chicken, beef, or pork. In this instance, we're going to use 1.5 pounds of ground beef, but you can certainly use just 1 pound. I just happen to have 1.5 in the freezer. So we'll start with our dry ingredients and we'll add those all together. I add the cornstarch at the end. It's just because it's a little bit different consistency than the rest. It's not as loose. But yeah, just add it in any mixing bowl. I'd recommend a larger mixing bowl than a small bowl just because you're going to be whisking and you might get some over the edge. So have a decent sized mixing bowl. And you want to work in that cornstarch really well into the rest of the ingredients. The cornstarch is obviously going to be helping to thicken this sauce with the water. And if you don't have cornstarch or any other type of starch, you could certainly use plain all-purpose flour. Some people use that as well, and I've used that to make chili seasoning mix. But the cornstarch tends to thicken it a little bit quicker and works well in this mixture, so it blends in well. And then I'm going to start preparing some of the toppings. So generally you're going to use some type of shredded cheese of your choice. This happens to be extra old cheddar. But yeah, certainly you can use a Monterey Jack or whatever you normally put on your tacos. So we're going to go through that. Other toppings we normally use are like a bell pepper. In this case I had a large yellow bell pepper in the fridge, so I'm going to use that, but you can certainly use whatever you have on hand. And then we're going to dice some tomatoes. We have shredded lettuce, sour cream, and then a taco sauce. And sometimes we'll add it depends on your palate. If you want something spicier, you could have a hot sauce that you can add as well. But these are just kind of the neutral flavors and not too spicy. And the spice mixture is not spicy at all. It's there's no cayenne, there's no pepper flakes, so it's fairly neutral. It does have a little bit of a kick with the chili powder, but if you have young children or people that don't like a lot of spice, it's actually really good for that. So any person that wants it to be extra spicy can add that at the end, right? So here I'm going to be dicing up some tomatoes I had on hand. These are fairly ripe, so what I'm doing is just quartering them and taking some of the seeds out, and the water content sometimes makes things soggy. So you don't have to do this. This is just an extra step to make sure your fillings aren't too soggy. Now the lettuce I had on hand was romaine, so I shredded that, but you can certainly use iceberg or whatever greens you want to use. Some people add cilantro to their tacos as well. So just give this a fine chop and get it to the kind of all the same size, right? All your ingredients should be roughly the same size. And there you see our toppings are ready. And again, you could always add hot sauce. But we always add a bit of sour cream in our tacos. It adds a nice flavor. So this is 1.5 pounds of lean ground beef that I had in the freezer. So here I am just kind of chopping it into first kind of rough chunks, and then eventually it'll all become very fine. But this spice mix is good for just 1 pound of ground beef as well. So whether a pound or pound and a half, it works. It's not too strong for 1 pound, and it's not too weak for roughly 1.5 pounds. So whatever ground meat you want to use, sometimes I'll use a combination of ground beef and ground pork, or just ground chicken. You can use ground turkey, whatever you have on hand. It works fine with this spice mix. So yeah, I roughly chop that up and then let it go for a while, and then I use tools to make it a little bit more fine as you go. So you don't want to add your spice mix until it's cooked through and it's starting to brown. So make sure it's fully cooked before you add your water and your spice mix. And I will drain off, it's not on video, but I did drain off some of the, it wasn't very fatty, but I did drain off some of the grease, okay? So you just want to add your dry mixture. And then your 150 milliliters, or about 2/3 of a cup of water. You could add a little bit more water if you want a little bit more saucy mixture, but I find this works out well. It's not too saucy and not too dry, so you want to really work that into the meat to get the flavors to incorporate. And you'll see it's watery at first, but you have medium-high heat right now, so the starch and the water will thicken, and that will also thicken the entire ground beef mixture, okay? This generally takes about 5 minutes of stirring and letting it cook through. It will start to thicken. You'll see there's a lot of steam happening, so that water will reduce. You do also want to reduce your heat. You don't want to have this on too high, or else things will start to stick to the bottom of the pan, or potentially even burn. So just gently stir it. Have your heat down to probably medium-low at this point. And you see it's a lot less watery and starting to thicken up. So because this is a homemade mix, there's no artificial colors, and you know what's going in, so it's a good healthy alternative. Here's a teaspoon of salt. You could even half that or have no salt, but I find without the salt it really lacks in some of the flavor, so a little bit of salt does help to bring out the flavors. And as you saw at the end, I wasn't quite ready to set the table, so I often put the lid on and turn the heat off, and it keeps the mixture warm so it doesn't dry out. If you have the lid off, it might dry out, so make sure you put the lid on if you are not quite ready. But yeah, I encourage you to give this mixture a try for once, just to see how it compares to the store-bought taco seasoning packets. It's fairly neutral, not very spicy, and it comes very close in my opinion, so I hope you give it a try sometime. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Please subscribe, and bye for now.